The White Bear Area Chamber of Commerce and On Location TV19 are proud to present Your Business Matters, dedicated to your business needs. The White Bear Area Chamber is a nonprofit business organization serving as an advocate for the White Bear area and its business community. Now, here is the Executive Director of the White Bear Area Chamber and the host of Your Business Matters, Tom Snell.
Welcome to Your Business Matters, brought to you by the White Bear Area Chamber of Commerce. Each month, we interview community leaders and local business owners so you can be informed about the developments in our community. Today, I'm pleased to welcome Benjamin Gerber, Director of Energy Labor Management Policy for the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce. We will discuss important developments dealing with compliance issues with the Americans with Disabilities Act. Businesses in White Bear and surrounding communities are being cited on a regular basis for not complying with the law. Find out what needs to be done to protect your business. Mr. Gerber, welcome to Your Business Matters.
Well, thank you, Tom, and thank you to the White Bear Chamber for having me out today. I really appreciate it.
Yep. I want to start out with asking you a question. What is the Americans Disabilities Act?
So the Americans with Disabilities Act, or the ADA as it's commonly referred to, was a federal law that was passed in 1990. It actually just celebrated its 25th anniversary this year.
Okay.
So it was actually signed by Republican President the first George Bush.
Yep.
And so it's been the law of the land for a while. But also what we're seeing, and you mentioned some of these lawsuits.
Yes.
Our businesses are being sued for violation of the federal law, the Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA, but also under the Minnesota Human Rights Act for disability access violations.
Okay. Now, I want to be real clear. Now, the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce is not opposed to the Disability Act, or they don't have a problem with people that are disabled having appropriate access into businesses.
No, and actually we want to encourage businesses to make sure that they're compliant with the law. It's really important as a business owner that you want to be open for business for people of all types and abilities, and so we want to encourage those businesses. We think it's appropriate that businesses should be accessible. What we're finding out and what's concerning to us is that the way the federal law is written and the way the state Human Rights Act law is written is that a business owner might be in violation, but they before they can be sued, there's no notice that's required to be given or a chance to fix a violation. So what we have is we've seen it started out in Marshall, Minnesota, but we've seen it creeping.
These are these lawsuits that started out. Okay.
Yeah, we've seen mostly small independent businesses. Actually, a national group, when they surveyed this problem, because it's been happening for a while now in California and some other states, typically small independent-owned businesses where the business might make between $50,000 and $80,000 a year. These are not rich people by any means.
These are the mom and pop Main Street businesses in a community.
Yeah, these are the backbone of the American economy. I mean, these are the people that employ a majority of Americans. They produce a lot of they're the economic engine of our country.
Right.
A lot of times they're first-generation Americans we're seeing have been sued.
So we're talking about immigrants that start a business, come to this country to pursue their dream, and they end up getting sued. Yeah,
we've seen anything from the small Thai or Chinese restaurant. There's been a few larger companies sued, but for the most part, it's a lot of small, especially independent restaurants and retail outlets have seen the bulk of these lawsuits.
So what happens? Does somebody come into the business and they get a letter saying you got to go to court, you're being sued, or what exactly has this process led to?
So typically what we've seen is you might have a group or an individual come in and take pictures. And oftentimes it's somebody that is legally disabled, and they are with someone that's taking pictures for the purposes of pursuing lawsuits against businesses that may have a violation. And everybody that we've seen, there has been a violation, but it's oftentimes they don't know about it. It's been as small as 1 degree on a ramp. So we've had businesses that have tried to comply, and they have a ramp, so they are accessible to people in wheelchairs. But the degree didn't meet the specifications of the ADA. It's really important to know, and that's why I love doing this, and I think it's great that you've been very active for your chamber on this. Is the ADA is a very technical law. So is the state law. It goes into detail on how high your towel dispenser can be in a bathroom, where your grab bars have to be for an accessible toilet, and parking spaces. A lot of people don't know that you're required to have a certain width and a certain amount of disabled parking spots per a certain ratio. And so one of the things we want to get businesses out to do is the federal government, the Department of Justice, have a compliance manual. It's really technical, and it's over 200 pages.
Wow. Well, how is some small immigrant business supposed to go through a technical manual that's 200 pages long? Is there any other method that they can use to make sure they're compliant? Are there people that can come out and talk to them and point to areas where they have to take a second look at?
Yeah, and I think your chamber has done a great job, and we've provided the chamber, and I know you've made it accessible to your members, the accessibility document, and also reaching out. There are people in the community that are ADA accessible specialists, so they will actually come out and audit your business and help find those potential traps that you could fall into. So they will measure and they will help you remedy those violations.
So I want to get back a little bit. That's really interesting to know. I also want to get back to the issue of these companies being sued. So were there a number of businesses that were actually sued in Marshall, Minnesota?
Yeah, so they were sued in Marshall, and the Marshall Chamber, much like you've done, have been right on top of this. They've worked with their businesses. They actually came up with their own compliance audits that they gave checklists of things, common pitfalls that businesses have been found in violation of. And so that's one thing you can do, making it known that we've even given out tabletop things that wouldn't preclude a lawsuit, but that could help show that you do have accessible, as for instance in a restaurant, that you have a table that is specifically modeled after the ADA. So if someone needs that it's available. That you mark your entrances that this is the ADA entrance that is accessible for all people.
So let's assume that you do some of these things, and all of a sudden this individual comes in, a disabled person comes in, takes pictures, and you end up getting cited. So typically what happens, do they get a long, detailed letter that indicates all the areas that they are not compliant in, or what typically is the first thing that happens to these businesses that get cited?
Yeah, and right now there's a certain group that's been filing these lawsuits. But it could be anybody, and that's what the chamber isn't focused on one person. Our focus is on making sure, again, that I think it's 1 in 7 or 1 in 6 Americans now qualify for a disability. And that includes elderly people, have many of the same roadblocks that someone with what you traditionally think of as a disability. And so, if somebody does come in, treat them with respect.
Yes.
You don't want to be mean, kick them out, use any physical force. But what you want to do is say, okay, if you see an issue, a lot of times you might be able to remedy them on the spot.
Yes.
But if you can't, show them that you care and that you will work to fix these problems, and invite them back the next day and have those problems fixed. If it means restriping your parking lot, restripe the parking lot that next day. Those are the kind of things that we want business to be proactive on. We've had a few instances where businesses have been sued and they've gone to the press and kind of, I think out of anger made some comments about that over my dead body will I pay to settle the lawsuit. We don't want that to happen. We want to show that businesses are willing to work towards fixing any of their violations. Like we said, it's an important thing for your business to be compliant.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that. I'm going to take a real short intermission and tell people about some of the chamber upcoming events. So just hang on and we'll be right back. I wanted to let folks know that on Thursday, November 19th, the White Bear Area Chamber will hold its 4th annual legislative reception at the Mung House in North St. Paul. Visit the Chamber website for more information at hyperlink hhp www.whitebearchamber.com. We've been touching on the Americans for Disability Act, and thank you for staying with us for the second part of this interview. But I understand that some businesses, when they get cited, they get a kind of a vague letter. So what should somebody do if they get cited and they get a vague letter?
Yeah, the first thing that you should do is respond via email. So there's a written correspondence, and save all this, and ask them the specific nature of the violations. What we've understood is a lot of the notice or lawsuits that have been filed aren't specific about the nature of the violations.
Okay.
And that's really important for you to know so you can fix them right away. The first thing I would do, email or respond via certified letter so you can prove that the person got it.
Okay.
And then what you should do is fix the violation, and then also contact an attorney.
Contact an attorney.
Yeah, either if you work with someone that you're comfortable with, use that attorney. There's some attorneys that have been very visible on this issue that have done a lot of work on them. You could also contact someone like that. But these are pretty. The issues involved, most any attorney could probably help you with, because they're pretty they're pretty not simple, but they're there's the accessibility guidebook. They can help you.
Yes.
Help you. The one concern that we have is there's a difference between new construction and existing structures.
I want to get into that too in just a minute.
Okay.
I want to, but you get this letter and you send a certified letter or an email, so you've got a record. What happens if you're really mad and you're saying, I'm not going to take this anymore, I'm going to go to court? Are there cost differences? I mean, can somebody really end up paying more money to go to court than settle out of court?
Yeah, and so what we've seen is it's really expensive. One of the things when I work at the legislature on lawsuit abuse issues, we realize that it often costs more to go to court to fight an issue, even if you're right, or even if the law is on your side, than it does to settle. And so what we've seen often is settlement requests for settlement from the people pursuing these types of cases for much less than it would cost for you to pay an attorney to go to court. Yeah.
Okay.
And as a business, you have to hire an attorney to show up in court. So unless you're an attorney yourself, you're likely to be in it for $5 to $10 grand right off the bat.
Wow. Now, let's say that you are in a business where you rent from somebody. And are you still? Is there still a liability issue in that case if you're a tenant?
Yeah, there's liability as a tenant as well as a landlord. So if you have building owners that listen, you want to make sure that your tenants are also in compliance. One of the things we've realized is a lot of leases require the tenant to assure that that their business is in compliance with all laws. So that absolves the landlord from some of the responsibility, not potentially all of it. I mean, obviously it's going to be a case-by-case basis.
Wow.
I think the other thing that we've been talking about is most insurance policies don't cover this. Most insurance policies require you to again, like a lease would, to be in conformance with all the laws. So one of the things we've told a lot of businesses is it's possible to get a rider. If you can do that, I would call your insurance agency before we're even done with this interview and see if you can get that put on.
So they want to go. So one thing a business owner should do ASAP is call their insurance agent to see if they can get a rider to protect them against potential lawsuit.
And I haven't done that, but what I've been told is it's relatively cheap. And it could save you a lot of money.
Okay.
Because if it's on your insurance policy, then your insurer is going to step in and defend the lawsuit for you. The problem has been is that these lawsuits if they go to trial, can take so much time that one case was recently won, and the attorney's fees for the business that lost was over $70,000.
And then if you take it to trial and you lose, and you are responsible for paying for the other attorney fees, right?
Yeah, because oftentimes these people that are pursuing these lawsuits know you're in violation. It's a very technical law, so even if you're 1 degree off, you don't meet the specifics of the law.
Now I want to get back to some of the things that were brought up at the very beginning of the interview based on, you've got the federal law, and then you said you've got the Human Rights Act in Minnesota. What are some of the things that can be done on the state level that would help remedy this situation? Do you have any suggestions or some of the things that the statewide chamber is pursuing?
Yeah, we've actually had groups of bipartisan legislators, Republicans and Democrats, reach out to us whose businesses have been affected and said, what can we do? Our goal is to not protect businesses that fail to comply with the law in a timely manner.
Yep.
Because again, we believe, and I know you would believe that, that your chamber, your businesses should be in compliance with the law, because it's not fair to the people that do invest and make those changes. What we would like to do is require that before a business can be sued, that they be served with notice of a specific violation, that they are made aware of what their alleged violations are, and that they're given 90 days to fix things that are easy to fix. So things like grab bars, things like that are non-structural in nature. And then what we believe is that for structural changes, in some cases it could be installing a lift. These are things that might need to get approval from cities and building inspectors. We think that you should be given up to a year to fix those, as long as during that year you're making a good faith effort to accommodate not only your disabled customers, but a good faith effort to fix them.
And you can do that without violating the federal law then. So you can actually, a company would have maybe a little bit of extra time to remedy the situation, so they would be in compliance.
Yeah, unfortunately, the federal ADA, and as we all know, what's going on in Washington isn't like what's going on in Minnesota, where we have bipartisan agreement on some things. In Washington, it's going to be pretty hard to fix the federal ADA law. But what this change would do is make it a lot harder. The federal ADA law only allows for attorney's fees and injunctive relief, which means the court can require you or order you to fix something, and then allow the person, the plaintiff, attorney's fees. The Minnesota human rights law allows for a lot greater damages and punitive damages, and so we would take that out of the equation. And so if you're served with a notice under a federal violation and you fix it right away, there's not much attorney's fees involved. So our goal is to make it less likely that people will take advantage of this law.
Great. And I want to just follow up, kind of the last part of the questioning I want to do is based on the kind of a building that you've got. Let's say that you're in an old building that was built way before the ADA Act came into being. Are there the same requirements that you would have for new construction?
So they are different. There's a difference between when your building was major modifications and been undertaken, and there's a legal definitions that you're going to want to meet with an attorney about if you have an old building. But just because you have an old building doesn't mean that you don't have to provide those access. So if you're able to provide a ramp at a reasonable cost, there's a whole analysis about reasonable accommodations, then you have to. It doesn't matter. A lot of people are mistaken that just because you might be in a historic building, I'm sure in downtown White Bear there might be some historically designated buildings, that doesn't mean that you're free of the law. So you want to really look into it, read the accessibility manual, reach out either to your local chamber or the state chamber, and we can all get you to the right person that can help you and make sure that you can make your building compliant, so you can make sure all your customers are able to enjoy your business. That's
really interesting. So you really have to watch out. I think what we've learned today, particularly from this interview, are a couple things. Number one, most important, I think, check with your insurance agent to find out if you can get a rider to protect you against this type of a violation. Number two is if you do get a vague letter, send a certified letter or an email so you have a record on hand and ask for the areas where you are not in violation. I think in the third area is if you do get this kind of a letter, think twice before you decide that you're going to take it to court, because it might be an extremely expensive endeavor.
Yeah, you have to weigh those benefits.
Yes.
It'll be different for every situation. The other thing that I'd want to mention is if you can get an ADA disability access specialist out to your business and have them do an audit.
Okay.
I've been told it's anywhere from between $200 and $500. I can't guarantee that price, but if you reach out to Tom or me at the Minnesota Chamber, we'll get you to a person, and that will really make it a lot harder for somebody to take advantage and potentially sue you for a violation.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Gerber, for joining me today on Your Business Matters. I'm Tom Snell. Thank you for watching.
For more information on this program or the White Bear Area Chamber, visit whitebearchamber.com or call 651-429-8593.